Now it's time to be dangerous. Now it's time to get risky. Now it's time to truly find out what you're made of and what you could achieve. Now it's time to truly find out how many lives you can impact. Now it's time to find out what you were destined to become.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Erick from Raw Minds. As you can see, I'm all by myself now. Anthony has taken on full time now, trying to be a fireman. So, we support him in that. And I'm thankful for, everything that he's brought and helped me build here on Raw Minds. I also want to say a big love to Joey, who helped me lay down the foundation of this platform and the impact that he's left. And he'll be around, we're close friends, so he wants to come back and show his face, so that's pretty awesome. Excuse me, sorry. And it's Men's Mental Health Month, so happy Men's Mental Health Month to everybody. And let's just keep it real. 4 out of 5 suicides are men. Most of us suffer in silence, but here we speak, we feel, we heal. And this is what Raw Minds was made from. So from pain to power. And today I'm honored to share the space with someone powerful. Her name is Georgia. She's a movement artist, healer, skydiver with over 500 jumps, and a best-selling author. She's being featured on ABC Nightline and in the New York Times. And Georgina discusses, on the Gaia interview with Ed. So let's get into it, and let's give a warm welcome to Georgia. Hello.
Hi there. Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm good. This is all new to me. This is the first time by myself because Anthony's on to newer and better things. So it's you're in for the first episode of By Myself. So
I'm breaking a champagne bottle over my head right now as we launch your solo cruise.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I hope I didn't bosh that a little bit. If there's anything else that
I've got 1,500 jumps now. Actually, I need to update my bio. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're a comedian too, so
I was a stand-up comedian for about, well, I don't know, 10, 12 years. I can't remember exactly. Yes,
that's awesome. So do you want to kind of just give a little bit of what you do in your life and how you help others?
Sure. I mean, so yeah, about 21 years ago, actually, after I had been working out at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, which was a very brutal experience in my life. There was a very toxic environment, which has been spoken about, particularly that period of time, but a super tough club. That I was a paid, what we call like a paid regular. So I was picked up by the club owner, Mitzi Shaw, to be a regular there. But it ended up being a really, really difficult environment. And I was doing a lot of work on myself to kind of handle it, basically handle the, kind of not so much the performing, but actually the challenges of the environment. It led to me having this kind of a spiritual event where I opened up to this group of guides called the Circle of Light. And I do this thing called channeling. So I'm able to kind of go into a trance and bring through all of this information about consciousness and how we create our reality. And also a lot of work with healing. So for the last 21 years, I've been working with clients. A lot of people who come to me are chronic. Either they're chronic in some way or they're really going for something big in their lives because they've probably tried everything before they come to a former stand-up comedian, a channeler. They've done therapy, they've done acupuncture, they've done Western medicine, Eastern medicine, and then they finally give us a go, which means that a lot of our tools have been developed really from working with people who have very challenging situations. I've worked with people who've got like everything from late stage cancer to also other performers getting out there. I helped my friend when she was on America's Got Talent and she made it all the way to the finals. It just depends. So it's all kind of the same thing, but we have a kind of a system of working with energy that transforms it from being blocked and resistant to expansive, flowing, moving, healing, expanding, all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Good for you. Did it just like come to you? Like how did it like the Like, how did you, like, yeah, I'm kind of
The,
confused of how it all
how it
happened.
all happened. Well, it was, to be honest, I'm not sure if you're in any of your audience are already familiar with things like law of attraction. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a woman out there called Esther Hicks, who is a channel like I am, who brought through a lot of that information about law of attraction in a similar way. She would go into trance. And basically this consciousness kind of starts to speak through us. If that's too freaky, you can just think about it like I've just dropped my ego mind completely and opened up to, other vast levels of consciousness that are available. And it happened in kind of a knock you to the floor event. As I was familiar with Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks is the name of the kind of entity or the collective. I had been listening to a lot of that because I was trying to use like law of attraction to kind of get through all this like nightmarish stuff I was going through. And a friend of mine had this thing called this could be super woo, but she had a thing called a Pathfinder, which is kind of like a shamanistic talking board, kind of like a Ouija board, where she was
Okay.
communicating with these energies. And they were just basically saying to her through the board, we can give you a lot more information if you just let us speak through you. So we understood the phenomena, and I was essentially expecting it to happen to her. But what happened one day, we sat down with the board, and I would always sit there and kind of write this like dictation from the spirits. And basically this huge blast of energy came through me. And I think because I was a stand-up comedian and I was just open verbally, this energy just came through. And whatever I had been doing, healing myself, working on myself, was kind of preparing me for this event. And the energy just started kind of like speaking through me. And it was just like, we're here and we're here to help the planet, and you're going to help us. And over 20 years, I basically had to go through quite an extensive period of figuring out whether I was just actually going insane myself or making stuff up. I had essentially had to leave the comedy store, which was so toxic, which was a very heartbreaking decision for me. And then a week later, I had this event, and it really showed me something about letting go of things that aren't working, even as much as you may want them, really being able to let go and surrender, and something bigger happened.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of changed the path of my life. And yeah, and then I progressed with working through what this was. And then the more I did it, I started working with clients, and this whole sort of set of tools evolved out of the information that I was receiving through it, which is basically how energy works, like how we take energy that is stuck and get it moving and transform it into different forms.
That's crazy. Crazy
It
story.
really
So
is.
it was like you went there helping your friend, and it took over you pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah. I mean, I was all like, wow, this is so cool. Like, but there had been an event where we would get together, all my girlfriends and I would be like, let's do the board. And we're basically just asking about guys we wanted to date. Like, does the bartender love me? Is he ever going to ask me out? you know, the important stuff, right? And then instead, what ended up happening was just this massive, life-changing event, and it had started coming in, like sort of, it's like an energy that comes in, so it had started kind of coming in. But she was more of a painter, and I think the energies could work through their hands.
Mm-hmm.
After they came through me, I was able to channel this energy, and it opened her up as well. And then we were both channeling. It was really like a wild weekend. I mean,
Wow.
I have
That's
another
awesome.
podcast called Coming Out of the Cosmic Closet, where I really lay out that storyline if anyone's interested in it, because we had to test it. We have to figure out whether I was making stuff up, if I was just looking for attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of that, can you plug yourself too so people know where to find you? And then I'll
Yes.
put it all in the
So
description below too.
thank you so much. Yeah, so my website is circleevolution.com. Circle like the shape, evolution like evolution of, humankind. I also have a new podcast. One of my clients was just such a fan of the work that we do. She started a podcast where we're featured, and that one's called Spread Your Third Eye. And we have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
fun. Like that one's, it's fun. We talk about, again, consciousness. We have guests on from different walks of life. So it isn't all just spiritual people talking to spiritual people. We have guests come on and they get to kind of interview the beings that I channel about all different topics, whatever people really want to know about, but they explain reality through this. Like we did an episode where a friend of mine who's an editor came on, and we did a whole episode of like, what's the purpose of entertainment? Why do we as human beings have this creation called entertainment? And they explained that in terms of consciousness and what we're trying to do with that, basically. So that's Spread Your Third Eye. We love making it. It's really awesome. But so the personal client work I do is on Circle Evolution. And then spreadyourthirdeye.com is a great way to kind of get introduced to this whole idea. It's super valuable. And my other podcast, which was actually one of my long-term clients, was Kiki Tyson, the wife of Mike Tyson, and she also loved our work. And they were trying to build a podcast network with his podcast. This was quite a while ago now, a podcast with network with his podcast. And she asked me to make a podcast. So I made a podcast, and that was coming out of the Cosmic Closet. But they didn't end up doing the network. But there's about 10 episodes of that out there. So she paid for me to make. Yeah, super random.
Yeah, awesome. And where can people find your podcast?
They're all on. So Spread Your Third Eye is a video podcast, so you can find that on YouTube, and then all the podcasts, all the outlets. Coming Out of the Cosmic Closet was not a video podcast. So you'd find that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the usual suspects. Yeah. Okay, I still have like 10 unreleased episodes of that, which I'd love to get out. But then the show came out, interviews with Extra Dimensionals, and I got super, super busy, and I just couldn't finish that. And then, things just keep happening, how it is. So just like trying to keep up with it.
Yeah. You'll get there, right? It's just a matter of time. That's all. Yeah. That's amazing, though. I love the story and how it just kind of just like took you over when you were awesome.
Like I'm like, whoa! I literally the energy poured in, and I was like, oh my god, I think it's happening to me, and I just boom, it came in, and that was it. Yeah.
See, do you figure that like because you're going through all these things and you're like trying to make yourself better and trying to fix yourself, that you're in the space where you could receive that all now? Do you think that whole process brought you to that point in time?
Oh, 100%. Like, I mean, I've always been just from a very early age, and I will share with you that, as a young person, I struggled with depression from an early age. I was always curious about why we are the way we are. My stepmom gave me a book on palmistry, and I was like, oh, you can figure stuff out, and then iridology, and then tarot cards and astrology, just anything kind of like, why are we the way we are? And I also went to art school, which was a very healing time for me. And I did a series of paintings of animals kind of struggling with things. And it was like man's struggle again. It was a metaphor for man's struggle against his own mind, essentially. So I was always seeking. That period of my life was very healing, and actually broke the depression that I was in. And then it was kind of like a life adventure, I suppose, up and open for different challenges, but always with this understanding that if I kept working on myself, my life could keep opening up, it could keep expanding, it could keep growing. I did hypnotherapy, which when I first came to America, I went to there was like a free hypnotherapy, a school that was teaching it, and that you could go get hypnotherapy. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm into that. And I just spontaneously started going into past lives. I was just like a hypnotherapist dream. This was before the spiritual event. So I had like a loose consciousness, which I could kind of like open up in different ways, which I think probably also made me very susceptible, like vulnerable to the energies of other people, like at the comedy store. And people would say, you're too soft. But I'm like, that's really the reason why I could also be a good comedian. I could feel the energy of the audience. It's the reason I can do what I do now. I can feel people's energy. I work empathetic, like obviously scan their systems, feel stuff. So there was a lot of preparation, I think, for a long time to prepare me for that, but it wasn't anything I expected or anticipated for my life. I thought it would be cool. I was like, that's cool. It's going to happen to her. I expected it to happen to her. And then, but it made a lot of sense. I was doing something which I had read in another book, which was before I would go to bed at night. And I actually highly recommend this to people. Generally, I was writing down before I go to sleep, tonight while I sleep, I want to visit with my higher self and the master teachers, and I want to receive more, wisdom and knowledge and understanding. So I had started that practice. And I think it was in that willingness to open up and to receive that led to this just out of left field event, and then like a life-changing experience, basically. Yeah.
It's amazing. Amazing. See, I know like we're talking about energy, so I don't know, people may think I'm a little crazy for this or whatever, but I mean, I feel like I see like auras almost around people,
Oh,
I
awesome.
see
Yeah.
like energy, like,
Yeah.
and it's like colors, very faint, but I can
Yeah.
see like colors around people.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced anything like that before?
I don't see like, and I can actually share some information about that kind of stuff, which might make it
I would love that.
be a little bit more of a functional thing rather than people being like, that's so like woo woo and weird. So everything is frequency, right? Everything is energy, and everything is frequency. And most of us live our lives governed by what we can pick up with our 5 physical senses. What we see, hear, taste, touch, smell. Is that all 5 of them? I don't know if I got all 5 of them right. But that's all still stimulation coming in that our brain then processes and gives us an experience. So, without a brain, we don't experience anything at all, So these things that kind of lie outside in the woo-woo realm, it's just a different group of frequencies that you can train your system to pick up on. And we have our pineal gland. This is what I've received from my guides. So the pineal gland is basically like the multidimensional processor of the brain. So there's 12, from what I've received, there's 12 energetic connection points. And depending on how partially and fully those connection points are open, means what range of extra frequency you can even let into your brain. And then your brain is learning how to interpret that and to give you an experience. So in your case, your system, your pineal gland, is sensitive to picking up that range of frequencies that lies beyond the physical sense of seeing, right?
Okay.
Then it comes in and your brain is able to, the pineal gland, but the connection between the pineal gland and is able to give the brain a new set of signals that it can now give you as that experience. So your brain ultimately gives you the experience of seeing the colors, but it's your ability to have that part of your pineal gland open up that allows those frequencies to kind of come in and be perceived by you and learned by you. And that's the same with intuition, knowingness, and then, clairaudience. A lot of people who are like musicians and artists, I work with a lot of musicians and artists and things like that. A lot of them, and inventors and people who are entrepreneurs and things like that, who get ideas, they come in like a block of intelligence, a block of information. And it's coming from that space that lies outside of the rigidity of our egoic structure, which is governed by the, usually, unless you're a weirdo like me, by the physical senses, But everybody's opening up more. This is actually something that's happening in the planet right now, is that collectively people are becoming more open, more attuned to this other sort of these frequencies that traditionally have lied outside of our physical senses, because it's just like a dog whistle, like dogs can hear it, I can't. Why? Because their brain and their nervous system and whatever is set up differently from me.
And how would you, like, can you train someone to be able to open these up? Is that
Absolutely.
what it is? That's what
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. I like to use the metaphor of music. I think is super handy. Like, everyone can play chopsticks, right? So everybody can kind of do this, but do you want to train your brain to do it? It really is so some people have a musical gift and they're naturally very good at it. Some people like chopsticks, and they're also
That's like
not
me.
that interested in it either. So even if you're not naturally gifted, even if you have an interest and a curiosity and have some persistence, this is what I learned from skydiving. I was told on my third jump, I was probably one of the people in the world who couldn't do it. Like my brain couldn't do it. But I knew from the work that I have done in working with clients and with myself as well, that if I just kept walking to the door, I would train my brain to accept the experience and train my nervous system to accept the experience and train my brain to process the information, because I wasn't processing the information well with the coach. Like he was giving me the finger to pull the parachute, and I wasn't seeing it because my nervous system had me shut down,
Yeah.
So yeah, you can totally it's a huge thing. And again, I talk about this on all the podcasts, is if you are curious, if you're interested, you train your brain to do this, just like I did. I wasn't, mind you, when I was a kid, I did have invisible friends. So I think I probably was tuned into something at that point, and then it kind of shut down. A lot of people were open when they're children, and then they shut it down. A lot of people who struggle with mental illness and depression are actually intuitive people who somewhere along the line, either it made them too vulnerable, they weren't accepted, and they shut it down. And that can be a big cause of things like depression, because your system is not open. It's not actually flowing in the connected way that it can be, So, yes, that's a really long way of saying yes.
I love it though. It's perfect. Awesome. I do have a question for you. I
Yeah.
know I said I didn't have it, but this is all a little different now, so I came up with
Yeah,
a
please
few
ask as
things
many
here.
questions as you want.
You work with a lot of people with trauma and transformation.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest reason why men struggle to open up emotionally?
That's such a good question. I think there's probably a combination of things going on, everything from social conditioning to biological functioning. I would say for me, the biggest cause for everybody's struggle is the nervous system. And if you can really understand the nervous system, and although what I do is very woo-woo, the first big blocks of information that came in for me to channel, which I think has been our specialty and very specific to, like, it was just everything. It's just, this is everything. That we have, our nervous system and the survival emotions that we have, which are fear, anger, shame, fear of abandonment, grief. These are all survival emotions. And people don't understand that they're just part of our biology, because the survival emotions like fear and anger, even like hatred, jealousy, that's another one. We judge these emotions these days as bad. But back when we were living in the caves, we needed like rage to fight, a saber-toothed tiger. It energized the body. Oops, sorry, bad lighting. Okay. We needed fear to run and all this stuff. So they were the energizing emotions. Then we had emotions like grief and fear of abandonment to bond us to the tribe, right? So if we got too far away from the tribe, we'd like start to grieve it and be pulled back to the tribe, because that's how we would survive. And then shame, of course, like if you didn't really do your part, the tribe would die. So we had these survival emotions. They were either like motivating in different ways. And I think what has happened with so many people is that we have lost our ability to use those emotions as they were intended. So most of us have learned how to either suppress those emotions, which leads to things like depression, anxiety, etc., or express it, which is getting into fights, getting into like the more destructive side is like expressing. But we lost the ability to actually just sit and feel the emotions. And one of the big things that came through in our work was just teaching people how to sit and feel emotions, emotion, energy that's trying to be in motion, but to feel it as the energy. So one of the things that we teach people is, like when anger arises, first of all, our techniques are designed to help trigger these emotions if they're suppressed, and then to safely teach people just how to feel it as energy. So if you're feeling anger, to just feel it more as like heat, pressure, vibration, rather than having the judgment on it, like, oh, I'm angry, this means I must be a bad person, I should be, it should be, or something really bad's going to happen if I let this anger out, which will create a cycle of suffering where the anger may have arisen for survival read. Like, look at us all road raging on the on the highway, like the nicest people being like, "Go fucking,"
Yeah.
because huh?
I have such a bad time sometimes. I'm still trying to, like I know that's one of my worst weaknesses is road rage, definitely. And it's
Yeah.
always trying to like find yourself, and like it's really minor, but I where it stems from, I don't know what it is, but like
Again,
trying to
it's
be
just
conscious of it.
it's really important to understand as part of the way for moving what we call a psychological body mind system, which is we are psychologically programmed from an early age to suppress a lot of this stuff. And we have this kind of system of contraction where, so this is an easy example. Like, say you're really upset about something, you want to cry and you've got to go, but you've got to go into a business meeting and be all cheery. And so you're like putting on a smiley face, you're using like all this tension in your face to put on this smile when you're actually like really upset about something.
Yeah.
Well, our whole body is like that. Our whole body. Right now, everybody has probably got some part of their body that they're unconsciously contracting, whether it's their little toes, their butt cheeks, their jaw, armpits. There's some system of subconscious contraction going on in the body, and that's keeping all of that emotion down. But it's such a waste of energy, because you've got the energy that's in the anger and the energy it's taking to push it down. You're draining your system. This is also what puts us into now a suppressed, depressed state, right? So what will happen though is an event will happen, like a road rage incident, that is overwhelming and temporarily just, it's able to overwhelm that suppressive system. And then all that childhood rage, it's really just like, inner children who are upset can just come out in a moment and be like, you. But then we start to get like the guilt about it or whatever and be like, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. So we start to push it down. So it's suppress, express, push it down, road rage incident happens. Now we're expressing. But we don't have the tools out there for everybody to just be able to sit, safely allow some of these feelings to come up. Well, we have the tools, but not out there in the world. There isn't enough of this, right? To just sit it and go, it's just energy. I am not a good or bad person for having anger. Anger in and of itself is not good or bad. It's just energy. So that's a fundamental piece of the work that we do, is just taking people through that process of intentionally activating some of these suppressed reservoirs and integrating them through. And we use a lot of love and acceptance, which is just, I love and accept the part of me that's angry, instead of being like, oh, you stupid bitch, why'd you get mad at that person? You should, you're a spiritual person. You should be, like being good and being nice all the time. Instead, it's like, now if I have an incident, I'll be more likely to just go, ha, laugh at it and let it move through without that kickback suppressive system coming back in.
Yeah, see, like I've started to, like I caught myself actually just before the last podcast I did, where a guy cut me off, and then I was like, wait a minute, like maybe he's having a bad day,
Yeah.
so I gotta step back, because you never know, right, what's going through
Oh,
that other
totally.
person, so that's what I've like started being conscious with now, and started trying to
Yes.
do stuff
Well,
like
and it sounds like with that, what you're doing is that you're putting in the mindfulness pause, so you're moving from just total reactivity, which most people, we just get into total reactivity. Whereas if we can start to feel the energy rise where we want to have that reaction, which if you start acting out on it can escalate into all kinds of shenanigans. To put in that pause and to, yes, you allowed like a more rational part of yourself to come in and have a chat. And just putting that pause in helps us to just even be with what we were feeling in that moment a little bit more as well, and be like, so, but I feel like a lot of the times why we're even creating these situations, because that's what my guys will talk about, is we'll actually end up manifesting situations to make us angry. So we create an opportunity to come back into union with that part of ourselves that is suppressed, not by berating ourselves, but by just actually allowing it to emerge and to be with it in some way, like you would with an inner child. You have a child, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of people learn from just being, growing up, that it's not okay to have these feelings. And that's where the suppression starts to happen, and why a lot of times anger too will come up as a defense to more vulnerable feelings, which is something that I've experienced a lot in working with clients, that first we might have to work with an anger layer before something super vulnerable like unworthiness is underneath that. And I think when it comes to men struggling with the feelings, so anger might be something that people are more comfortable with, but a lot of us have deep shame underneath that, unworthiness, valuelessness, which is all what we would call, it's just the illusion of the mind. Somewhere something happened along the line that made us feel unworthy, and it was too powerful an emotion for us to process as a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old. So we bury that down. And then, with that responsibility of then having to be the strong guy, you can't, it's very hard for people to hold feelings of worthlessness at the same time as they want to hold feelings of being empowered, and they are expected to hold those feelings of being empowered. So, it's really about helping people go through that, gently deconstruct that defense system, safely allow people to feel their emotions, build a new bond with those parts of us that have been suppressed. And then what happens is a lot of the times that tension just starts to go away, and people start to act as a whole unit again in a truly empowered state, what we would call authentic positivity, not suppressive positivity, like an authentic empowerment, rather than like a, you know,
Yes.
very strong man. When I was at the Comedy Store, I was abused by the guys because they were so out of touch with their own vulnerability that the only way they could really handle having women around them was to, hit on us, and then if they felt rejected, abuse us. It was really, that was the darkest male energy I've ever experienced, honestly, at the Comedy Store. Now I'm surrounded by, I skydive. I'm in a community with a similar proportion of men to women, which was about 20 to 80, like 10 to 15, 20% women. I am surrounded by so much beautiful positive male energy. It's been actually super healing for me. So anyway, that's a little side note, but I feel that if people can understand their nervous system and take the judgment off, really understand, like, this is a piece of biology that's controlling us a lot of the times. I have PTSD. No matter how much work I do, I may not be able to stop that piece of biology functioning that way and getting triggered. But I can learn a lot more tools. So instead of being in a triggered state for a year, I can bring it down to 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the other thing, is to have compassion and to just work with what you got.
Yeah. Fair enough. I'm really sorry to do that. Give me 1 sec. My little one's sick and she's just knocking on the door here. I'm just gonna
Okay.
go quick once.
Yeah,
She's good. She just wanted to know where the cough syrup was.
nice.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Do you find a lot of it is projecting? Like how you're saying is like when you're in the comedy club and like how the men were treating you. Do you think it was projecting because
They were projecting on me.
yeah, like yeah,
100%, and I think as human beings we project all the time. Like,
yeah,
I'm equally as capable of projecting my stuff on other people and stuff like that. And a lot of the tools that we teach as well are, again, we use the love and acceptance. So one of our tools is basically like, you just sit with yourself It's amazing. This tool, literally, if I can give you a link to give to your people, it might sound a little soft, but it is profound how much this simple tool can help people. I've worked with people with late stage cancer with it. I've worked with, like, it's amazing because what it does is it deconstructs that egoic prison maze that we create in our mind where everything's like, well, I can't feel this because then this is going to happen. I forget, and it's just this, like, our energy is trying to function through this maze that's just our unsupportive conditioning and programming, conscious and unconscious. So what this tool we use, which is to just sit and be like, okay, what am I feeling? Like, I have so many emotions come up with skydiving. So I'll sit and I'll process it and be like, okay, like, I love and accept the part of me that's really embarrassed. I suck, I love and accept the part of me that thinks I suck. I love and accept the part of me that wants to be a shredder. I love it. You just, whatever's coming up, you don't judge any of it. Even if it's like really like superficial, like, I love and accept the part of me that like wants to be, like the hottest shredder in the whole lab, whatever it is. Because, you're letting these inner children voices come up so they don't act out, and then the next step of it is to look at what you see in these other people as well. Like, so I've done a lot of work with those guys at the Comedy Store where it was like straight up women haters, basically. And I'll go, I love and accept the part of me that is a woman hater. I love and accept the part of me that's angry and, bitter. I love and accept the part of me that is, and then also because I had one guy just scream at me being like, whatever, we don't have to go into it all, but like, whatever he said to me, I will love and accept in myself. Like, I love and accept the part of me that feels I'm worthless. Our work is sort of like about saying, well, everything at some level is me. It is my projection. So I reclaim all the energy of that projection by using this love and acceptance. And what that does is it dissolves this conflict of fighting with yourself and fighting with others. And it just kind of unifies the whole system. And it's super simple and just really beautiful.
I love it. It's almost like not letting people live rent free in your head, pretty much. It's like,
yeah, and
it's a eviction notice for them.
It's an eviction notice, but you know what's weird about it? It's an eviction notice through actually welcoming it, instead of trying to reject this part and being like, like, you can't fight the mind with the mind, right? Because then you're just in your mind, and that is the place where all the suffering is, right? So another big piece of our work is we heart center, which is getting out of the mind. So the eviction actually happens through loving and accepting. It's like there's that voice being like, you didn't do good enough and you're a piece of shit. Well, a lot of times that voice might be a 12-year-old that felt so much responsibility but didn't have any way to motivate oneself except to be mean to oneself, right? Maybe motivating a 3-year-old part that just wants to, like, like if a child has a alcoholic parents, for example, and they have to step into the role of being the parent to a younger siblings, for example. Now the only voices they have may be the voices of their parents, how they're motivated by them to motivate themselves and their younger siblings and younger aspects of self. So we don't hate on those parts. We see them, we acknowledge them, we go, okay, I love and accept the part of me that thinks I'm a piece of shit, because it's actually a child. I'm loving and accepting the child, not that I'm a piece of shit. Does that make sense? So
100%.
it's super powerful, because a lot of people go, well, if I love and accept the part of me that's angry, doesn't that mean I'm just going to become more angry? And that's, again, a mind defense system saying, keep everything the same. We need this system to survive. That's the other part about the nervous system, is this framework we developed when we were really young is embedded in our survival, which is another reason, thank you, why men have a hard time reaching out for help, because it's embedded in the survival system. This is how I survived my alcoholic parents. This is how I survived getting beaten up. This is how I survived those horrible teenage years or whatever. I cannot give up this survival system. If I go and get help, it's going to threaten the survival system that I have developed, right? And that's so, again, for people who are having a hard time reaching out for help, even if you start using the love and acceptance, it will start to deconstruct that survival system to the point where you start to feel safe to open up to something new. And unfortunately, what does happen is that when people don't listen to those early signs that their old system is breaking down, the system they developed as a 7-year-old, surprise, surprise, isn't working that well for a 40-year-old man, or, for a 25-year-old or someone who's just started a new job. When we ignore that and we just keep, and women do this too, obviously, we have our own survival way, which is like fawning and, sucking up, but what, like stuff like that. But, people basically have to get broken by their own system, which is basically, alcoholics bottom out, something really bad seems to have to happen before people are willing to give up their old survival based system. Whereas the message that we try and put out is listen sooner. Here's some tools. There's nothing wrong with you doing this. Everyone has a nervous system with all this complicated stuff going on. There's no shame in having faulty wiring, just need tools that work to, as an adult, reparent those inner child aspects and just get a better system, because the world starts to open up more and more. And but it takes courage to trust. It's really the nervous system saying, don't change. So if you can understand it like that, now you can step in with your conscious mind and say, I know it's actually my nervous system stopping me from going to a therapist because it doesn't know how to survive outside of its own known zone.
That's amazing. It's like I talked to my counselor a little about like something along the lines, and this, she said to me, is like, my nervous system is like the driver.
Yeah.
And it's not letting me drive the bus. It's
That's
my
right.
nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
totally.
it's a matter of trying to ask your nervous system to sit aside.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
let you drive the bus. And
yes.
And yeah.
And a lot of that is letting the nervous system know that it's safe to do that. And again, some of those nervous systems are little kids. So you can do like inner child work and visualize a kid and be like, hey, you're just a 3-year-old. You should be playing, not trying to run the life of me as a, 35-year-old man. Like, you go play. I need you to play. I need your creativity. But I'm an adult now. And I'm ready to take this responsibility from you. This is too much for you to be carrying anyway. And the other thing is to do a lot of releases of tension in the body, because it's hard for the nervous system, which was designed to override the conscious mind. So when I'm on the plane skydiving, if I'm doing something that is, outside of my comfort zone, which is a lot of the times, right? And if I listened to my nervous system, I would have missed out. I just want to share this. If I had listened to my nervous system acting out in those early days, I would have literally missed out on the best years of my life, the best era of my life, the best community I have in my life, the greatest love I've had in my life, the greatest support, just an amazing experiences. That's putting aside the incredible experience of skydiving itself. It's just everything I gained by not letting my nervous system control me. So a lot of this, if I didn't have the tools that I have, and I used a lot of EFT, I don't know if you guys talk much about tapping.
Yeah.
Tapping is a great tool for the nervous system. And the other tool I use a lot is just a lot of little releases of tension, because when you release tension in your body, you're using your body to signal to the body. So the nervous system is biological. So if you can give biological signals, little releases of tension, and then follow up with something like, it's safe for me to be here, I want to be here, and release more tension. Now you're entraining the biological system to come with you, rather than doing its job, which is actually to take you over. If a saber-toothed tiger is running at you, you're not going to be there like, you're going to, your nervous system is like, get the, go.
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's almost like, oh God, it just came to me and it just left. Like if a snake bites you,
Yeah.
you're not going to run after the snake and say, like, like, why did you bite me? Like, apologize. You know what
That's
I
right.
mean?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah,
can.
exactly. It's a total override. So again, a lot of what we try to get across is that your nervous system is not you. Your nervous
Mhm.
system is not your consciousness. I know when I have a PTSD thing, what's going on, what the voices are saying, it's not me. It's my nervous system is creating biological thinking and emotions.
Mhm.
And who I am in a stay in play state is who I am, who is my consciousness. And I think a lot of people have shame about what they're thinking, how they're behaving while their nervous system has got them hijacked, basically. And there's such a liberation if you can find those tools. Another great thing is this is a super simple tool, which is the vagus nerve release. I don't know if you've ever been
Oh.
shown that one. You just lie on the ground and you put your hands behind your head and you hold your eyes to the left until you get like a secondary breath, like that. Maybe for like a minute if you don't get that. And then you go to the right and the same thing. And what that does is it shifts the vagus nerve, which is this nerve. I'm not a super expert in it, but it basically shifts your nervous system from being in stay and play, which is like the bunny is grazing in the field of grass, it's all happy, stay and play, to fight or flight. The eagle is coming for the bunny starts running, to the dorsal vagal system, which is collapse, which is freeze. And that's a lot of times when people are in depression, they've gone into a freeze state where literally their nervous system is saying, if you move, the eagle's going to see you, pick you up and kill you, and you're going to die. So this is a big struggle for people to, when they're having a hard time getting out of depression, it's because they're actually trapped in a dorsal vagal state. So this vagus nerve reset, and you can Google it out there, and there's people talking about it. You can probably find it on YouTube. I don't want to, will
Yeah.
actually, you can start to use that to train your nervous system to go from that dorsal vagal state back to the ventral vagal state, which is the stay and play, where it's like, okay, it's safe for me to adapt. It's safe for me to bring in new influences. It's safe for me to be open to the world. It's safe for me to explore new things. I'm basically safe because and this is why actually I've discovered why skydiving can be very healing for a lot of people who have depression, because the other way that you get from the dorsal vagal state into the ventral vagal state is you actually have to pass through fight or flight in a safe way, which is what skydiving does. People go into fight or flight while they're on the plane, then they go through this experience, they live through it, and then they're just completely like elevated after the experience. So there's plenty of ways to do it, but I'm just probably talking like because I want your people to know that this is just a piece of biology, that if you learn how to operate it, so many of those shameful thoughts and feelings and emotions that are connected with that collapse state, dorsal vagal, actually just go away because you're not in the state where your nervous system is saying, don't move, you're going to die, don't do anything. But it'll use different words like, if you do this, you're going to fail and everybody's going to hate you and it's going to be really embarrassing, right? It uses its own vocabulary. That's the nervous system creating those voices in your head to keep you still and safe.
Okay, good to know. So
Yeah.
you heard it here. If you're dealing with that, try that tool,
Yes.
like Georgia said, and yeah,
An EFT.
yes, definitely. I do have a couple more questions here for you.
Yeah.
What's one thing you wish men knew about healing that society doesn't teach us?
Oh my God, it's the best. It's so liberating.
Mhm.
So, in our work, there is a principle, this concept of surrender. And when we surrender, so when people finally bottom out, they go through this process of surrender where they're like, okay, I I don't know how to fix this. And it takes a long time, a lot of the times for men to get to that point, to really admit it, because it's so scary to feel that feeling of not being able to fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can just let yourself feel it as a feeling, as energy, like I don't actually know how to fix it, then you can hit that surrender point faster. And when you surrender, what you do is you actually open up your mind to new consciousness. So when somebody goes to a therapist, they've essentially surrendered that they don't know. There's somebody else who knows more about this than them, like someone who studied it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they go to a healer, it's like that's their job, right? They're like geeking out, reading books about it every day, talking to their friends about it. They're working on it, training. That's their job. Like when the car is broken, you surrender and you take it to the garage and you get the mechanic to fix it. When you're in a legal case, you don't know how to defend yourself against the Supreme Court, right? You surrender and you get a lawyer. There's nothing wrong with it. And when you open up, it's the same when you surrender the limitation of your mind, because all the suffering we create within our unconscious and conscious programming and in our nervous system. So when you can actually surrender, and this is another element that we teach is heart centering, to actually get out of the mind and to just focus in the middle of the chest and surrender, what you're basically telling your broader self, honestly, is that I recognize that even if I'm really wise and even if I'm really smart and even if I'm really good at repairing cars, I don't know how to fix this thing. And I'm open to receiving new intelligence that can help me move forward. So the act of surrender is actually a door opening. It allows more information, more knowledge to come in, more wisdom. It's just that you first got to say, I'm not there yet. And that's the beautiful thing. It just opens up worlds over and over. Like I said, if I hadn't listened to my nervous system, and if I had listened to my depression, and if I had listened to like not wanting to change, instead of just being like, man, yeah, I need help, like multiple times when I was 13, because of my childhood, I was like, I know this someday I'm going to have to go and talk to somebody. And sure enough, when I was like 17, while I was studying psychology at university, I had a breakdown, but I just went to therapy. And then I started meditating, and then went to art school, and I just kept surrendering and opening. And everything's just gotten better and better.
Do you think it's the fear of unknown? Because as human
Yes.
beings, that's we
Yes.
always want to know the known, right? Like, and I say this before on my other
100%.
podcasts, like you need, like, that's why we bet on hockey games. It's not just for the money, but it's because we want to know who's going to win, or the stats.
Yeah.
You got the player stats. It's because the
Yeah.
fear, as humans, we need to know what's happening.
We need
right?
need to know how to control the space we exist in. And that goes back to the nervous system. So the survival system says, if I know how to control this environment, because I figured that out when I was 5, this is my known zone. And what lies outside of this, the nervous system innately experiences as a threat. That's why it's so crazy. Like, you can talk about meditation and people get so angry or healing or yoga. They get madder. They go like, what do you mean? Like I could be waving a gun around and everyone's like, oh, that's cool. That's fine. But bring up like yoga and meditation. Everyone's like, look, fuck off. Like, what, you crazy bitch? And that's, I feel like I had that at the Comedy Store. It was just, I came in there with my heart open, with love. And it was so confronting to this survival system that dominated the environment. My energy was just innately a threat, and I had to be gotten rid of basically by the people. And that's, so understanding that again, the nervous system, the survival system is controlling you. Start to say, wow, what is out there that I don't know about? And relax your body. Maybe it's something great. Like I said, if I had kept believing what my nervous system was saying at the door of the plane, like, don't do it, don't go out there, you can't afford to do that, you're going to kill, like all the voices. I really learnt the voices while I was going through my training. I would have missed out on the greatest era of my life.
Well, let's talk about skydiving here.
Yeah.
You have 500 jumps.
Over 1,500 now, actually.
Oh, sorry. 50.
It used to be 500 when I first wrote that, but it's over 15 now. Yeah. 1,556, but who's counting?
Yeah. That's 1,556 more than me. But what made you take the first leap, and what did it teach you about fear?
Man, so much. So I had already been doing this work and receiving the information about the nervous system and the survival system. And I have faced a lot of stuff. I mean, being a comic, I've done a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. I certainly haven't been a 9 to 5, so I've faced a lot of like financial fear and, like not being normal fear, basically, just living out of the box of the regular known zone for most people. But skydiving, especially, and of course I would have a horrible training because this is my job to help people overcome things. Yeah, I was told on the third jump that I was probably one of the people in the world who couldn't do it, that my brain couldn't do it, that if I didn't pass the next jump, there wasn't an instructor here or anywhere else in the world that would take me on as a student. And also that once leave the student area and you go into the hangar, no one's going to help you. Like, it was the biggest fear dump you could imagine, on the third jump. And of course, these instructors are the authority at that time. So I took it in very deeply. So I had to work through a lot to keep going. It was not easy, but I spent a lot of time I used a lot of EFT, like even after getting that instruction, I was so anxious. I couldn't sleep. I didn't know whether I should keep going. Basically, the guy had made me feel like I was a ticking time bomb that was, bound to kill somebody because I couldn't do it. Right? My brain couldn't do it. So I had to process a lot of like, what's my role? What's my responsibility here? It was heavy. Like most people they don't have to face all the consequences immediately. So I really had to sit with that, and I would get a lot of physical stress in the plane. And one day I was getting up to the point of graduating for my license, and I was just on the plane, like I was on the bus on the way up there, just like in angst, basically. And I went into my body and I went into the pain, and we have certain techniques that help you make it conscious what you're holding on to in there. And I realized what was holding me back. It wasn't the fear of dying. I knew it wasn't that because I'm very in touch with the other side. But it was the fear of hurting somebody else or hurting myself and becoming a burden. And once I had an understanding of what the fear was about, then I could actually start working with it. And I actually admitted it to my coach and told her all my secrets of why I thought I was, terrible. And she was like, "You're not a killer. Just get on that plane and get out there and do it again." She was amazing. Not the first coach I had. It was second one. So but I learned a lot about feeling the emotions of fear and the shame, and just learning how to be with them, process them, but not believe them. And that's the trick. We call it, don't believe the illusion until you like it, and I've done a lot of things that are way out. I started skydiving late. I was 44. Like most people start in their 20s, So I'm not the greatest skydiver, but I've pushed my comfort zone for sure. And I keep working with that edge. And it teaches me the most thing a lot about myself. I had to work a lot on healing my PTSD, just to be around all these guys again. I didn't even realize I had so much anxiety. My hands were shaking. I had to heal a lot of that. It's made me grow immensely as a human being.
Good for you. I'm proud of you. That's awesome.
Exactly.
I got a question. Have you ever bungee jumped?
I never bungee jumped. No, I never bungee jumped. I just don't think I was anywhere near one. Did you do it?
No, I'd rather go skydiving than bungee jump, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I never did that. And I haven't base jump. Base jumping is definitely out of my league, I think. But have you done a tandem?
No.
All right. Well, you got to do it, dude.
It's on my bucket list. Actually, last summer there was 5 of us. We were supposed to go. We were gonna go over to Victoria, just a ferry away.
Yeah.
We were gonna do it. One of my friends, he's a fireman, and he's got a buddy that does all this stuff. So we were all gonna go out there as a group, but it never went through. It fell through. Hopefully, we plan something like that.
I have met quite a few Canadian skydivers, actually, because we all get around, and I know people, have met people who jump out at Victoria.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe even know my buddy's friend. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah. And there's actually a group of firemen called the smoke jumpers as well, who are the firemen who skydive into the fires and do.
That's a hard job. Actually, my buddy, he was in the military, and I think he was in with special forces, and he
Right.
would do low altitude skydives where
Yes.
it's hard on the body. He says it's super hard because it's you're at low altitude, and as soon as you jump, you're throwing your chute right away, pretty much.
Right. And
Yeah,
they do the packs. A lot of my friends
yeah,
train military and stuff. That's like
yeah,
a whole in skydiving, there's actually a lot of different career paths too, which is
yeah.
really crazy. I'm just a fun jumper, but there's a lot, a lot of people work in the military, I jump with a lot of military. That was actually another kind of cool thing was I'm a real peacenik and stuff, but I
Yeah.
met a lot of great military guys skydiving. And one thing I will say about those guys, and I think this was eye opening to me, was I noticed that the guys in the military who were very positive and they looked out for me and they had an innate sense of service, which I found really, after being in different types of communities, I found that that's innate sense of service, which is what I would put in the positive masculine realm. That's one of the things I found very healing, and the way everybody looks out for each other and stuff like that. So I gained a lot of respect for the character of the guys in the military through meeting them in skydiving, which in my artsy, stand-uppy world, I would never have been exposed to these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another beautiful thing about skydiving. You just meet all types of people.
Yeah, all walks of life. People just wanting to have fun and took up
Yeah.
a hobby. I guess it would be a hobby. Jumping out of a plane.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is. It's a
Yeah,
sport. It's a
yeah,
passion. It's a
yeah.
real
Sport.
sport. Like once you
Yeah,
get into it, we do all these formations, and
that's right.
like you're learning how to fly with other people in larger and larger groups, and
Yeah,
they do massive world records, and all kinds of
yeah.
stuff goes up
How
up
about
there.
the squirrel suit? The squirrel suit.
This girl said
Have you
every
put one
once in
of
a while.
those on?
I haven't wingsuited, no. But funny, of course, like everybody, one thing, years before I skydived, I saw some videos of the wingsuit proximity flying, and I was like, oh, my nerves was like, wow, that looks amazing. And then I saw that skydiving is a beginning, people start doing that skydiving. And it was just something in the back of my mind when I went and did my first tandem in Hawaii. And that's how probably I first was like, oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched some of these videos. Some of these guys are just crazy.
There,
How
what?
low
Yeah,
they
I
can
have
get
some.
to the
Yeah,
crazy.
that it's some of my friends are really up there in the
Yeah.
wingsuiting and stuff like that, and they're very. I've jumped with like people from the Red Bull Air Force and stuff like that. I
Oh
did a
wow.
lot of the training camps for a head up world record last year. I didn't get selected, surprise, surprise,
Oh.
but I did the camps. It was very nerve wracking. But I got to meet this woman, Amy Shemalecki, who's the first woman on the Red Bull Air Force, total badass.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's another skydiving. There's so many things already. I think maybe if I was younger, you do have to be like, okay, how much time do I have to put into this? Because you have to be able to nerd out on certain areas like swooping, which is high performance, canopy flight. It's out of my concentration league. Base jumping, wingsuiting, I might try.
Well,
Yeah, but it's just
let me
more
know.
like you're under canopy. You've got to be unzipping things. It's just, I don't know, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's more stuff. Yeah.
Well, I hope you do get in the wingsuit one day. I think that would be
Yeah,
awesome. I think
never say never.
so. I'm gonna leave us with one little story here that I met since you're with skydiving. So it was probably about a good maybe 6 years ago, roughly around that. I was dating this girl and she had her own hot sauce company, and
Cool.
she's got like a communal. There's like a communal kitchen, like one of these like where a whole bunch of people come. It's like a big kitchen. And there is this guy I met there, and Grouse Mountain. I don't know if you're really about Vancouver here, but Grouse Mountain is one of our mountains that ski slopes and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And it's got gondolas that go to the top.
Yeah.
And this guy stopped the gondola as it was going up, opened the doors, and skydived out of the gondola.
Oh, really?
He got busted by the police. I'll tell you that because they obviously were waiting for him when he came down.
Yeah. Right.
But it was on YouTube. It was on the news and
He
stuff. But
wingsuited. He must have wingsuited, right? He
yeah,
didn't.
yeah,
Yeah,
wingsuited it out
wingsuited.
of
Yeah.
there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he wing right out. Yeah, you could probably even find it. Gross guy jumps out of gondola on Grouse Mountain.
Oh, wow. He must have definitely
Yeah.
ridden that gondola a few times to
Oh,
assess that
yeah.
before he did it. Yeah.
Definitely, he said it was a whole process. It
Yeah.
was like a couple months long. He did
Yeah.
break the rules. He did get in some major trouble, though.
He did. Yeah, right.
You shouldn't be open the doors, but I mean, I thought I'd just leave us a little,
Yeah,
little
right.
story that, yeah. But
Yeah.
I just want to say I had a great conversation. I really appreciate, you coming on here, and sharing, what you do, and hopefully some of the stuff will help some of the listeners here. So I just really
Yes.
appreciate that.
Thank you. There's actually, if I could give a little plug, if there's on my
Do.
website, circleevolution.com, I have a free ebook that I give out if you join my email list. And it's kind of a cheesy name, honestly. It's called the Authentic Positivity System, but it is 5 steps to work with that psychological body mind system, how to learn how to relax, how to learn how to let things come up, how to learn how to use the love and acceptance and integrate stuff so you can have these breakthroughs. And it's just really simple, super powerful. And I can't tell you, I mean, I have a lot of clients. Everybody's like, wow, I cannot believe how well this works compared to like a lot of stuff that they've tried, because you're not using your mind to fight your mind. You're just allowing this system to kind of rewrite. So I hope, regardless of the woo-woo origin of what I do, it is very grounded in how the system of the body and the mind and the emotions works together, and energy, to create a system that goes from the psychological body mind to the body mind as a tool where it's working in union with you, and to be the tool of service it's supposed to be to the life that you are here to live.
I love it. I love it. So all your links, if you can send me all your links after,
Sure thing.
just send me email. I'll put them all in the description, and please, guys, check it out. Show some love, and maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you won't, maybe you will, but who knows? I mean,
Who knows?
take the step. You never know, right? So
Surrender.
Exactly. Well, on that note, I just want to say thank you again. I had a great time, and you're always welcome to come back and share some more stuff. I'd love to hear when you get in your wingsuit.
Okay.
Share a video with us.
Challenge accepted.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me on. I think it's so important, and I just want to give some appreciation to you for creating a portal for men's mental health and stuff like that. It's much needed, and I hope somebody gets something out of this today.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you for showing up and supporting us and all the other men and women out there that need this. So I appreciate it.
Totally.
On that note, thank you. If you guys want to be in the hot seat like Georgia here, hit us up at rawmindspodcast@gmail.com, or you can check out my website that I built that I'm not happy with. I think it's a little ghetto, but I mean, hey, I never built one before, so it's good enough for me for right now, and that's rawminds.ca. And if you need help, we have all resources from all around the world. So if you need to reach out, if you're in the UK, Africa, Denmark, wherever, we have all the resources. And if you can't find them, shoot me an email. I have a program to get you the resources that you guys need. So on that note, thank you again, Georgia. Appreciate you. And we will see you next week. Bye.